Hello everybody, it's Valerie Zimreva, Future Time. And right now I will have an interview with Saul Kaye. Hello Saul, thank you that you find the time to make an interview with me. Well, can you please tell us about yourself?
Hi, thanks Val. I'm a pharmacist, I live in Israel, and I've been in the medical cannabis space for the last 6 years. And we've been at the spearhead of taking cannabis globally, destigmatizing, getting better regulation and better patient access, ultimately for medical cannabis patients.
Great. How did you came to this industry?
I saw the potential, the medical potential, the economic potential. I saw it quite early on from a perspective that Israel, where I'm from, allows the research into cannabis, where this has been not allowed everywhere else in the world. So we had a unique position, and I had a good voice that was able to transcribe that and tell people and focus media and focus the story around the patients, how do they get medicine, the economy, the tax man, and we created a language that made everyone comfortable, and we've been very successful in bringing that to the rest of the world because cannabis is a true global revolution at this point. So we've been at the very forefront of that.
And how long you already in this industry?
6 years in cannabis.
6 years.
Yeah.
And what is your background?
I'm a pharmacist, chemistry background, retail pharmacy, and health and wellness, helping people. And
so
ultimately,
it's your life to make the people more happiness and more health.
Well, as a pharmacist, I guess we're legal drug dealers, so this is another type of medication that can help people.
Great. And actually, can you please tell us a little bit more about the concept of a global cannabis ecosystem?
So cannabis is hyper-local at the moment. You're focused in certain states within the US or certain countries, but ultimately coffee is grown in Jamaica and exported to the rest of the world and in Colombia. So how does the total global trade around cannabis look like ultimately when we sort out our supply chains, when we sort out the regulation around cannabis? Who can get it, where you can get it from, how do you get it, who can supply it, who tests it? So this is a complex business. It's not just science in a laboratory, there's a plant involved. Science in laboratories and plants are very different environments. And then you've got the patient side. So I think just my platform has been about spreading how good cannabis can be from all aspects, bringing the thought leaders together to have that conversation and lead the conversation, much like they do here at the WEF, where they think about what's next. So how do you really think about cannabis? You have to geo-fence cannabis and allow the free trade of cannabis between countries so that because you've got amazing strains of cannabis that are available in Africa, they need to get to populations outside of Africa. So true globalization of an ecosystem is pretty cool to watch from the inside of it happening.
How did you see the industry of the cannabis, medical cannabis, will growing in the next couple of years?
So it's very easy. You've got an illegal population using it. That's the size of the market, right? So we look at typically 3% of a patient population will use cannabis for an ailment, but up to 27-30% of the population is using it illegally. What we're doing is transcribing those patients into a legal framework that's taxable, that creates jobs, that creates tax revenue that goes back into education. Don't drive when you're using cannabis. Don't use cannabis if you have a prehistory of psychosis, right? We can generate all of that through a good tax regime, in allowing people to do what they're currently doing anyway, but put them into a legal framework.
Great. Well, can you tell us a little bit more about the CanTech? How cannabis and tech can to be working together?
So CanTech, idea was kind of like TechCrunch and TED for the cannabis space. So when you think about agricultural improvement and you want to increase the yield of tomatoes and you sell tomatoes for dollars for kilograms or pounds, whereas cannabis you're getting a very high price for grams, you now have the money for innovation to increase and optimize. And we're in a technology area. This is biotech as well as high agri-tech. So the ability to have that in a system that creates enough money to support that is quite unique. At the same time, you can release product to market and start generating revenue, which in the pharmaceutical world would take you 7 to 10 years and $100 million to get there. You don't need to do that anymore with cannabis.
What was drives your idea to organize CanTech?
A new language that can really elevate the conversation. So there are trade shows where you go to get, technical information, but how do you really take the conversation to make it like the World Economic Forum, to talk about the big issues, to bring a highlight onto the science and the entrepreneurs and the funding and the regulations and how we can avoid those bad regulations. It was, for us a very natural fit to create that language, which has been very successful everywhere we've gone across the world.
To make more understandable for the people, right?
Yeah.
It's a great idea. Thanks for your answer. And can I ask you also, how big is your company? Can you tell us about your team? Because from my experience, as I know, the team is one of the important points in the successful business.
So we're a small team today, 17 people, very functional. We build very lean startups in Israel, very focused on capital. And we have to be very lean and bootstrapped, and that's how I've built the team. So some focus on Canatech, the event side, some focus on the investment side. So through Canatech, we get to see awesome entrepreneurs. Some of those we incubate, we generate ideas together with them, we build companies together with them. And some we see that are awesome companies that we want to participate, and we've made investments across the whole value chain in cannabis. Sourced through deal flow that we see at the conferences.
Great. And what is your future plans for the next couple of years, and maybe actually for 2020?
So cannabis is still very, very early. If we compare it to pregnancy, we haven't really even given birth yet to cannabis. We're talking about state-by-state legalization in the US, and Canada and Uruguay pretty much as the only countries right now that are really active. But then on a global scale, we're starting to open up into Mediterranean countries, Asian countries, Australia, Africa.
Is there where you want to go, right?
And now those are the emerging markets. So if we look at population size and growth and where you can ultimately make an impact, those are the markets that we're focusing on. So for 2020, we hope for clear regulation in CBD. CBD is non-psychoactive cannabis from the hemp plant. There is still a lot of gap between local regulations, international regulations, and this is a completely safe product that has no psychoactivity. So it's madness that it's still regulated as if it is a drug. So that's something that we really hope in 2020 we can move away from that. The analogy is really simple. You have poppy, that you can make poppy cake, and you have poppies that can make opium. Right? No one's trying to make opium from poppies from poppy cake. It's a different plant. Same species, but different activities. Same with cannabis. You've got hemp and non-psychoactive cannabis, which can be used for biofuels and plastics. And it's a crop that produces more fiber and more protein than any other crop. It uses less water. It should be planted in place of possibly soy, possibly cotton, in mass production across the world. And then you've got the medical side, which is focused right now on THC. So 2020 is going to be a very interesting look at what happens. I'd love to see federal legalization in the United States, because that will trickle down to everyone. Once the US goes legal, everywhere goes legal.
We would like. It's so exciting also to see what is going to be in this industry about the medical cannabis. Why you think that for the moment we have some problems with the legalization of the cannabis, medical cannabis in the industry?
Because of stigma. Regulators don't understand it. They are scared of it. It is a drug. We've been taught for 100 years how bad this plant is.
But for example, the medicine which we have right now, it's also like broke our health. The medicine which we are using in the pharmacy, how I understand from my side, that medical cannabis is more safe for our health. For
100%,
our health.
but the policymakers haven't accepted that yet. and they haven't changed policy and they haven't educated doctors, and you still go and get your medical cannabis from a drug dealer, it's until there's a full value chain, and this takes time. I've been doing this 6 years.
You think in 6 years the situation can be changed?
I hope in the next 6 years. Yeah.
In the next 6 years. We will see, maybe it's going to be even sooner. Who knows? Well, I would like to thank you for this interview, and also for you, our lovely viewers. It was Valerie Zimri of Future Time, and